Hello there. Welcome back to the Sky Guys podcast. We are on the road to the Mandalorian and Grogu. We are continuing our journey through Mandalorian season two. Talk about chapter 14 today, the tragedy. One of your hosts, Mike Phillips, with us here today. The man's voicing the narration every single week. Pete Consadori is here. Pete, how are you?
Doing well. Excited to talk about this. Wasn't available last week. Apologize for that. But yeah, excited to talk about this one and excited to hear Nick's thoughts because I know this is his favorite.
Yeah, so since we didn't get you last week, any general takeaways from chapter 13?
Yeah, I mean it's unfortunately it's another Mando quest, but it has Ahsoka, so that just makes it 10 times better. And the action was good, and I thought it was still good. I think it was a good step forward, and I think it leads into this episode quite nicely.
Yep. Also here with us today, the man of the hour who talked about this episode back on Just and the Suffering back in 2020. Nick Fraietta is here. Nick, how are you?
That's crazy. We talked about this episode rough whenever it came out. I don't know, it must have been around Christmas time of 2020.
Yeah.
And that is kind of what got the ball rolling for this podcast to exist.
Yeah, it
We
was this.
talked about it, and then me, you, and Pete did the finale together, and then we kind of kicked off from there. But very excited. As you know, this is one of my favorites, so we're very excited to talk about it.
Yes, would you like to introduce our guest today? Because I know this is your guest pick as well. We said Nick can run the guest of this episode.
Yeah, well, we'll have to refer to me as Nick F because here with us today is Nick G.
Yeah, Nick G,
Hello,
welcome.
Nick G.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Happy to be here. Long time listener. Happy to come in on an awesome episode. So, yeah, happy to be here.
Yeah, so Nick, for the audience who's not heard from you before, you want to tell anybody like, some of your favorite Star Wars stuff slash hot Star Wars takes?
Uh, Favorite Star Wars stuff. I am a staunch Andor fan. I think it is a masterpiece. I don't think that I'm in the minority in that sense. Um, I am one of the people that thinks that maybe it's not that rare that A New Hope is a far better movie than Empire Strikes Back, although Empire Strikes Back is fantastic. Um, and then I think that we had a slight disagreement before this we started recording that I am not a big Boba Fett fan, though I did like seeing him in this episode. But yeah, I was kind of getting a little bit of a Star Wars, getting a little tired of it with a lot of repetition, but Andor has rejuvenated my love for it. It never went away, but it really has rejuvenated my enthusiasm for it. So, and now, kind of revisiting Mandalorian and how good it is. Kind of forgot about that, so it's great to have rewatched.
Yeah, great to have you on here, and definitely a fun episode to visit today here. And Pete want to subscribe to the Sky Guys. Do so Apple Podcasts, Google Play, TuneIn, Spotify, Amazon, all usual suspects. Simply search for the Sky Guys here podcast platforms. One episodes there, and we're running through our little Mandalorian rewatch journey here, and we have special Mole Shadow Lord coverage coming up. Please make sure you're locked in and subscribed.
Subscribe, it's free. Get a lot of content from that. Helps us out, helps you guys out too if you want to see and hear our content. So make sure you're subscribed.
Nick, people want to follow us on social media. Nick App, how do they do that?
You can follow at Sky Guys Podcast all over social media, and you can email the pod at skyguyspod@gmail.com.
Yep. And we also got our social media comment here. This is from Instagram this time, Nick Fraietta. We got an Instagram comment
Oh,
too.
interesting. We don't usually get the Instagram one. Let's see what it is.
Yeah, this is from the time that me, Pete, and Max Roberts talked about Frog Lady in chapter 10. This commentary is from Igor Astakov. We asked about how chapter 10 hold up on a rewatch. Ihor says, still the worst episode of the show in a season that was mostly wasted on build-ups for spin-offs and fan service. And with that comment, Pete Consadori salutes you.
They do.
Yes, back to chapter 10. We don't like Frog Lady.
Yeah.
Bad chapter.
Yeah, Nick G. Infamously, this is the first time I talked about Star Wars with Pete on the Mando front. Was it this episode? Chapter 10.
I share the same sentiment about the Frog Lady for sure.
Yeah. And safe to
Yeah.
say so far, has been the lowest rated episode of this season when we went back and rewatched it.
Makes sense.
All right, so let's get to the Star Wars news here. We promised people last week, Nick F, that we would go over the Super Bowl spot here, and
Yep.
they gave us something.
So they did. There was I want to say 30 seconds, right?
So
A
it was
30-second,
37 officially.
okay, 37-second, I guess I'll call it a commercial of Mandalorian and Grogu, kind of just said in theaters May 22nd and showed what I thought was a Grey Poupon commercial and then a beer commercial. And then I found out it was a Star Wars thing. But that was it. I mean, I guess looking back, it really shouldn't have expected a trailer. Like you're not going to get a 2.5 minute time slot on the Super Bowl. So looking back, I guess it's not as crazy as I thought it was at the time. But I did see the internet was kind of in an outrage.
Yeah, Nick G, like what did you think when you saw this spot on Sunday?
I, without thinking about how long it might take, I thought that I would see a trailer, and I was really hoping that I would. But now that I've thought more on it, I understand that the audience of the Super Bowl is a little bit different of an audience than you might normally get for a Star Wars trailer or something like that. There's a lot of people that are not diehard fans, they're more casuals that might not have even known that this movie was coming out. And there's probably an overlap between that audience and the people that just think that Grogu is super adorable and cute and can't get enough of him. So it was just pretty much a notification like, hey, here's some cute Grogu stuff. And also this movie is coming out just so you know that this is happening. And I think that that was the overall goal. I still don't think that they did a very good job of achieving that. But if that's what they were trying to achieve, I understand that that's why they did it.
Yeah, PL, add some more context here. John Favreau directed this separately from the things as an homage to classic Super Bowl commercials. So sort of like your Budweiser Clydesdales is like a target here. I think if you're increasing brand awareness, I don't think they did a good job of it because you wait like way too long to see either character in the commercials, like 15 seconds before you see one of their hands. You get Sam Elliott voicing over, which I think was a waste of time in that sense. And I do think like if you have to come out the next day and go to Variety and say, "Hey, here's what we're trying to do," I think you failed.
Yeah, I mean, I think we had that problem with The Acolyte where the director had to explain everything after the episode came out. It was kind of one of those deals. Um, a 30-second promo or 37-second promo versus like a show is a little bit different. So I'm okay with Favreau coming out and saying like this is what we tried to do. It may have not landed. We understand that. But I think at this point for the Mandalorian Grogu movie, any press is good press at this point because they have not been anywhere. So if they're going to have a small 37-second thing and then they have to go on and do an article about it and that gets circulated around the internet, at least it's being talked about and at least there's some awareness. And like Nick G said, this is purely notification purposes. This was not, hey, we're going to give you what happens in this movie. It's, hey, you used to like Baby Yoda. They're coming back to the theaters, and you get people talking. Oh, we should go see that. They may not be going to the trailer on YouTube. They may not be actually caring about what's actually happening. It's more so, oh, that's coming out. Cool. We should plan to go see it when it does.
Yeah, I'll add in 2 points here. I think Nick Fraietta, I think that they really biffed on with this. I think would have made sense here. I think number one, there was no trailer attached. We saw some of the other movies in the Super Bowl. It says, hey, like here's 30 second spot. Go online, watch our trailer now. Like they did not do that. They should have had something ready to go, and they didn't do that. I think it's a wasted opportunity spending whatever $8 million for 30 seconds. I think the other thing is here, as much as we love Sam Elliott, why is Pedro Pascal not voicing over this commercial?
I agree with both of your points there. Put the link in, not link, but tell
Put
people
something
to go
online.
look at the trailer.
Yeah.
They'll go do it. And Pascal's not only is he your main character, he's a recognizable voice at this point too. I think that would have drew attention right away because when I hear it, I'm half paying attention. I'm talking to people. I hear him. I go, "Oh, it's a Coors Light commercial." Okay, but if I heard Pedro Pascal, my ears would have perked up immediately, and I would have looked at the screen.
Yeah, Nick G, what do you think about those two ideas?
Yeah, Pedro Pascal has had a huge 2025. He was in a lot of movies, almost too many movies, that he kind of just pervades everything. And I think that it would have definitely, Nick, to your point, drawn attention. Part of me thinks it would have been funny if he tried to do a Sam Elliott voice and like kind of tried to be the beer guy in a way. I don't know if that was like what they would have gone for, but yeah, it just seemed weird that they're going for the beer thing. I don't know what relation there is between Star Wars and beer, and they should have just done a little bit more of a Star Wars feel. Yeah, I don't know. It was strange to me.
Yeah, P, I know that Favreau wanted this to be like an homage to classics like Super Bowl commercials, is sort of why they did the Clydesdale imitation. But I think if you have Pedro Pascal talking from the start of the commercial, I think you get people locked in a lot quicker than you did there.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only thing that's more popular than Grogu when it comes to the Mandalorian is Pedro Pascal. So I agree wholeheartedly that he should have been there. And honestly, I'm kind of getting tired of the unoriginality. Just make some new content. We don't need an homage to old commercials. We don't need to live in the past. Let's move forward and let's get some original content and make it interesting, right? But again, I think look, we're talking about it. So it obviously worked in some degree. Um, it's out there. People are talking about it, whether it's because it needs to be clarified more or because they saw it and they're like, oh, wow, this is the Mandalorian. It's not a Budweiser commercial. Then it kind of did its job.
I'll do a crowd survey here. Like everybody, so we all were in a different Super Bowl party situation. How many people like in your room, like sort of recognize like, oh, this is actually a movie coming out, like, or cared when this commercial came out?
No, I needed to explain it.
Yeah.
Similar to how I always do. I have to explain that there's movies coming because they don't seem to know, or no one seems to know because they don't seem to tell us.
Yeah, I think my party, I was a room of about like 25 people. I think maybe two people like recognized that this actually was what was going on here.
What are you gonna
Yeah,
do?
the thing that's oh, sorry, go ahead.
I would just say, what are you gonna do? That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing that struck me is the font that they used in the trailer, like the Mandalorian and Grogu font, is not very recognizable. It's not very Star Warsy, and it's not very easy to read. So I feel like for even people that might not have heard the commercial, even seeing it on the screen, they still might not know what the hell it was. And that I don't know what they're trying to do with that. It's really hard to read. But to answer your question specifically, it was just me and my girlfriend watching the game. She had no idea the movie was coming out. She still had no idea the movie was coming out after the commercial. So I don't know.
All right. So I think we're, that what, P, unless you want to add anything, I think we're safe to move on.
No, let's move on.
All right.
Yeah, next is the budget for this movie, Mandalorian and Grogu, that is, has been revealed to be 166 million, which is the cheapest of any Star Wars film. Now I'm imagining, Mike, that does not include the Clone Wars movie.
Any Disney made Star Wars films.
Okay. Well, it has to, okay, gotcha. So yeah, cheapest Star Wars Disney movie. I said to you offline, and if you disagree, tell me. I think that has a little bit to do with the fact. I know they're doing it intentionally. I know you had mentioned that, but I think it might have to also do with the fact that Pedro Pascal is mainly a voice at this point, and there is no actor getting paid for Grogu. There's a guy doing this with his hand. He probably gets $10,000.
Yeah.
So I would imagine that's something to do with it, that they're kind of saving some money there.
I think it's a mix of, they're trying to be more budget conscious over at Disney. I mean, we saw big flops with like Solo and some of the Marvel movies recently have been big budget wasters. Like, I mean, season of the show has been roughly about like 120 million, so this is not much more than that, which is not what you're hoping for. But I think they're looking at the back end piece, sort of like, okay, it's easier for us to turn a profit if we're more manageable with our costs, and they do have tax credits, probably going to reduce the overall expense here. I think they're looking at this like, okay, we can get enough people in the audience and make a profit. Well, it goes on Disney Plus, people will watch it there. I think like they're looking at here is like we're lowering our risk here, which I think is we're going to see how this goes.
I just hope it's not lowering the quality. Things are expensive nowadays, and look, 166 million is a lot of money. Like I'm not downplaying that, but you hear about the amount of money that's being spent on other movies and other things. It just kind of makes you wonder what the quality of the movie will be. If it's around what the seasons are, and the seasons are, roughly 6 to 7 hours of content, if we're getting a 2.5 hour movie, it's a good chunk of change. But that's the only thing I think of is the low budget to try to get more profit. But does that translate in the quality of the film?
Yeah, we'll
And
see.
let me just correct myself because I said something really stupid. Obviously, it's not the cheapest movie they've ever made. Obviously.
Yeah,
So I think A New Hope's budget was $170 million. Of course not. It's probably 10 million. But all right, continue.
yeah, yeah. That's it. I think that's all we have to say. The movie. We'll discuss this more in like when we preview the movie in a few months.
Yeah, well, we'll get there. Next, we have Jason Momoa and Dave Bautista did an interview recently where they both stated they'd like to play villains in Star Wars projects, calling themselves both Star Wars nerds.
Nick G. I know they're both in the Dune franchise as well. Would you be interested in seeing these guys in Star Wars?
Um, I'm kind of turned off by huge actors and actresses being in Star Wars. I remember, when we were first introduced to Star Wars, I had no idea who any of the actors were, even Harrison Ford. Um, it just reminds me of the Jack Black thing. It was so out of place, and I know that they would probably do it a little bit better in a movie than they did in the show. But there's so many actors that can just do such a good job without reminding you that they're a famous actor, especially in Star Wars where it's supposed to be escapist, that it would not be a draw to me at all. And if anything, it would be a deterrent. Not that it would deter me, but it would be a deterrent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Let's move on though, in the
Yep.
sake of time. The Art of the Acolyte book is out and revealed some interesting information. So it noted that Dathomir is supposed to appear as a planet in the Acolyte, as a site of the temple before Dave Filoni reminded Leslie Headland that not all witches are from Dathomir. That's kind of funny to me when I read that out loud. I'm going to cycle through all of them,
Yep.
roughly, and then we'll just
Yep.
go over them. Next, Chimere's mask took direct inspiration from Kylo Ren. It was meant to draw a link between the two. That kind of makes sense. I feel like that was pretty clear. The Senate building was originally supposed to be shown under construction to show that the corruption seen in the prequels had begun. That would have been great. I do love the Senate. Lastly, here, Plagueis was always planned to be introduced at the end of the first season as a larger threat that would hang over the rest of the series. I've mentioned this countless times before. That sounds cool, but that's going into the show assuming you're getting multiple seasons, and you should just try to hit it out of the park in season one, see where that takes you, instead of writing a story that you need 5 seasons for, because guess what? You only made it one.
Yeah. My big takeaway from reading that, there's a whole article on Star Wars Holocron, a bunch of takeaways from this book. A lot of the good ideas they had did not make the show, which explains why the show only got one season.
Absolutely agree.
All right. You want to wrap up the news here? I think we got like one more thing.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I thought we were going to continue. Yeah, you're right, though. Matthew Robinson, who wrote the script for the Rogue Squadron movie, said he doesn't know what Lucasfilm plans to do with the script. Since the studio is in some flux with Kathleen Kennedy's departure, he also indicated the basic storyline of the film covered fighter pilots in space. Yeah, obviously.
Yeah, so this is never happening.
No, no. I didn't think there was a chance ever, so.
But surprising we actually have a script for this movie. We thought it was in development hell.
Yeah, that is interesting that there was a script, but I guess there's a lot. I mean, I don't know anything about making the movies, but I guess there's a lot more than that.
Yeah, is that it for the news, Nick?
That is it. Let's move on to chapter 14.
You have Chapter 14, The Tragedy. This was originally released on December 4th, 2020 on Disney Plus. Written by Jon Favreau, directed by Robert Rodriguez, who go on to get the Boba Fett TV show as Nick Fraietta puts his hands over his head like on the Zoom version to show us discuss what happens with that here. But the big return of Boba Fett with Tim Morrison officially like actually talking and being kick-ass in this role. We have Grogu taken by Moff Gideon's Imperial remnants. We set up the end of the season here. Nick Fraietta, this is your favorite episode, I think, of the whole series, outside of maybe chapter 16. What do you think here? Well, how holds up on the rewatch?
On the rewatch, I like it just as much. I want to get my one complaint out of the way immediately because I want to talk mostly positive here. My only complaint was I feel like, at least for the first half of the episode, the pacing was very rushed.
Yeah.
Everything seemed to happen so quickly that they get there, they land. This is where we are. Boba Fett's here. The Empire's here. They're fighting. And it's like, but you know what? That's my only complaint on the entire episode. I thought it was fantastic. The action's unbelievable. Boba Fett is not ruling with respect. He's kicking ass. Fennec's kicking ass. Mando's kicking some ass as well. And the troopers are kicking ass. Not the stormtroopers, the Death Troopers, that is.
Yeah, I will say here, Nick G, definitely a fun episode to revisit and seeing it. Like, this is probably like my third time watching it. I watched it once with Nick prior to season 3 in term coming out. But I think interesting thing with this episode here, like, and Nick mentions the pace here. I think it works that it's a little rushed because you have that frantic energy of like, they're coming, what are we going to do? I think that does add to the experience a little bit.
Yeah, and I think it works. It's such like it's a huge pivot in the season. It's like, okay, Baby Yoda's gone now, and how can we make this happen in an effective way? And I remember reading that the script was especially short for a show. And if you go back and think about it, there's almost no dialogue. It's just basically one long action scene. But the action is really effective in a lot of ways. Some things you can nitpick, but if the if what you're trying to do is make the season pivot where Baby Yoda is gone and now it's we have to catch him back, how can we do that in the most effective, interesting, and exciting way? I think it's been totally nailed it.
Pete, your thoughts?
I just think it's sad that it took us this long to get something or an episode where everything was story driven. I think this was the first full episode that I felt everything that was happening. Granted, it's all action, but everything that was happening was a direct correlation as to what we were watching Mandalorian for. So I think that I wish I'm on Nick Fraietta's side. I wish it was a little bit longer because we finally get all of the story content in one episode to flip it, but it's almost very rushed in the sense of, oh, we only got two more episodes in the season. We kind of need to do something with the story now. Hey, we've gone long enough, really not pushing the story along. So boom, here you go, switch it up. Oh, you find the shrine or whatever it's called, and now Moff Gideon has. So I think it's just like a almost like a rush job. It's just like, oh, we got to do something now. So, but it's still good. I mean, it's not bad by any means.
Yeah, I'll add some notes here from the wiki page about this episode here. And the runtime of this is a very short 30 minutes. Might be, I think, the shortest episode of the entire series. And the episode was written by Favreau. Robert Rodriguez is not the first choice to direct the episode. He did work with Pedro Pascal on a Netflix movie, and that got him in. Rodriguez, according to the wiki, was surprised at the short length of the script and asked Favreau, "Is it okay if my script is only 19 pages, but I cut really fast, probably ended up being 16 minutes." But Favreau explained that Rodrigo's there to fill out the action scenes and make the battle longer. He praised the script, saying it had all the good stuff in it. It was like a greatest hits of all the good stuff. I couldn't believe it. To go play in Star Wars with all the toys and get to play a Boba Fett. Not only would Boba Fett be appearing in the series again, Rodriguez took the opportunity to make him super badass this moment and be that character I imagined him being when I heard about him when I was 12. Not mentioned to make just to go satisfy that 12-year-old fascination with the character, and that's his quote on it. So very funny to hear that perspective, Dick, considering what he does in the actual show.
You mean his own show?
Yeah, his own show.
Yeah, I don't know. He must. I would love to be backstage to see, like, maybe he had a lot of constraints to him, like, hey, this is his own show now. It needs to be more child friendly or something like that. Like, you got to tone it down, or maybe it was his decision. I don't know. I'd love to be, back there to find out. But dumb question. When they say a script is 19 pages, does that generally mean it's about a 19-minute episode?
Yeah, the general rules use like one page is a minute of script, like is a minute of the show.
Okay. So,
They
I
want him.
mean, I would imagine they have. So I know they're pretty lenient with the run times because they can vary, but I'm sure they have some minimum. Like, it has to have at least 30 minutes, probably, or at
I would
least
say
28 or something.
probably like 22 is like the bare minimum, but I think they want it like for like this. This is why they brought us like, hey, like make the action cool and extend the action out so we can like because I'm sure there was like pages of the script saying, okay, battle, like add more in the battle. I think that's what Rod Rodriguez's job was.
Well, he did a great job. The action was top tier, and dare I say, this may be, and I think definitely is, the best action Boba Fett's ever had in Star Wars history.
Yeah, I mean he's
Outside of Shadows of the Empire video game for the N64. But you kick his ass in that.
the best canon action for Boba Fett.
Yeah, I think it is.
Because I mean, we only really get him as a child in episode 2.
And
We
Clone
get
Wars as well, yeah.
a little bit of him being like a prankster in Clone Wars, where he's trying to be a baby bounty hunter and not doing much there. He's standing around in 5 and 6 for the most part, and then his own show.
Yeah. He flies into a ship in 6 and dies. Flies into a yacht, I should say.
Yeah, and Han Solo whacks his jetpack like while he's blind and sends him flying into the Sarlacc.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So speaking of the Boba Fett stuff here, like we knew this was coming, Nick G, from the beginning of the season, like where we see him in the first episode, like seeing Mando get his armor back, says, I'm gonna go find this guy, basically. Like, what do you think about the return of Boba Fett proper to the story?
I think that his entrance was fantastic, where you see his ship just kind of come in the distance, and it's kind of like faded out because it's so far away, and it kind of creates this like big scale, like the ship's coming in. It's very grand. and he lands, and his music, like this episode, is so menacing. It's just a very badass tune that he has whenever he's fighting anybody. It really leans into like the mystique that he had during the originals, where it was like he was very mysterious. He was a badass. He looked super cool. And though, like you guys just established, like he didn't really do too much. He wasn't as cool as he looked in the originals. But this music just really fits who he's supposed to be and his reputation over like the decades since the originals came out. Um, he's awesome with the gaffy stick. He makes these really mean, aggressive faces where you just see like how angry he is. And then when he comes up back on screen and he's in his full clad armor and he just like it's kind of cool that he just goes and takes it himself in the middle of the battle. He's like, okay, it's time. I'm taking it. I don't care what Mando says. It's a very good descriptor of like who he is. And I thought it was a perfect introduction and really fit the reputation of the character.
Yeah, Pete, what you got with the Boba Fett like fight scenes we got here, where like I noticed particularly this time around, like that they do a lot of like weird things with the camera to kind of make like a horror movie vibe when he's fighting in terms of like how like menacing he is. I thought that worked well for him.
I thought it was fantastic. I mean, this is what got us excited for a Book of Boba Fett show, right? I mean, this is like, oh wow, this is great. This show is going to be fantastic. And then, history tells us that that wasn't the truth. But um, I think it's everything you want in a returning character, right? It's a returning character, armor that you recognize. They've been teasing it the whole season. He comes in, is a total badass, helps out, and then teases that he'll be back again, right? Where, hey, at the end, like, which this is a writing thing that kind of pissed me off a little bit. Where at the end he's like, we're gonna help you make sure Grogu is safe, and they're like, well, they just took him. He's like, all right, well, we're in your debt. See you later. Like it's a very like quick switch of of tone, but he's it teases that there's more to come for Boba Fett, and like after that performance, everyone's hyped up, right? We don't know what kind of quality Book of Boba Fett was going to be, and I think it was done. It was done phenomenally, and it got me excited for a character that didn't have much of a role in Star Wars other than kind of standing there looking cool.
It's also important to note here, like on your point that like at the time the episode airs, we don't know we're getting a Book of Boba Fett yet because we don't learn that for about 2 more weeks.
No, but they still tease it. I mean, Boba Fett's like, "Hey, I'm indebted to you," almost like we'll see you again, right? We'll be involved again at some point. So
He's basically like I'm becoming a main character the rest of the season, basically, is what he's telling you right there.
yeah, and then they flip flop it, and Mando becomes the main character of his show.
Yeah, Nick, obviously, like we got a lot of cool Boba Fett fight stuff here. Like Nick G talking about the stuff with the gaffy stick, which is pretty cool. Like you have these shots of him basically like impaling stormtroopers with the gaffy stick, him getting his own armor back, and then he has that moment where he's just mowing down stormtroopers, and then he uses the missile on his jetpack to take down 2 ships at once. That was pretty sick.
Awesome, awesome. I do want to say I changed my opinion on something when I watched this again on. I think I watched it Sunday actually.
Yeah.
When I watched it again, at first, when I saw his ship approaching, I was like, oh, they shouldn't have did that. They should have made him just appear because it would have been cooler. I don't think so. I think the way they did it was actually perfect because it's like slowly like, who is that? Is that Boba Fett? That's his ship. Oh my God, it's him. I think that's better than just him showing up. Because if he shows up, he's not going to have his armor on. It's going to be Tim Morrison, and they're going to go, who's this guy? Oh yeah, that's Boba Fett. The way they did it, I think, was perfect.
Yeah, I do think also it adds to it, Nick G, that like we do like get the thing where like Mando doesn't know who's coming or we know who's coming. I think that makes it more fun for us, the audience.
Yeah, and Nick, it's a really good point. You wouldn't half the people would not recognize that it's Tim Morrison and know who that is and who that actor is, and you kind of had to introduce the ship to so even I'd have been like, oh, I think that's him. I'm not sure. They kind of had to do the ship for that exact reason, and if they did have to do the ship, then I think that they did it the really right way, where it was coming into the distance and Mando's confused and we're kind of confused. It was done right, I think.
If he shows up with his armor, that makes sense. But he doesn't have the armor, so he can't do that.
Exactly.
Yeah, you can't do that here. And there's also this fight sequence on Titan here. And Pete, I forgot until we rewatched it here to basically like Tython, they basically made Star Wars Stonehenge, basically, where Grogu has to go up and try and communicate with it to find a Jedi.
Yeah, and there's a little, not a comedic effect, but there's a little bit of like, I'm not gonna do it, I'm not gonna do it. Mando turns his back, turns around. Now he's all of a sudden like in this trance. So yeah, I mean that was something that I totally forgot about too. I actually thought that was in the last episode. Maybe there is some sort of like that scene in the last episode too, if I recall, but I could be wrong. I thought something like that happened in the last episode, not this one.
Yeah, we'll see what happens there. Here, I did think it was a very unfortunate timing for Mando throughout this episode, where like he runs into Boba, he makes a mistake, like when he takes the jacket off, he forgets to put it back on, which ends up costing a lot of time later on. He leaves Grogu like 3 seconds before Grogu gets out of the trance, and they can would have just if he waited like a 30 seconds longer, he just picks him up, goes back to ship, and leaves. Like we could have like avoided a lot of this with a little bit of patience from Mando.
Yeah, definitely. Bad luck on his part. I guess that kind of answers the question me and Nick had offline. Boba Fett says to him, "Drop your jetpack." Why? Why wouldn't he say drop your gun? And I guess
Yeah.
it was to find a way to get the jetpack off Mando, so that way he didn't have it, so it ended up screwing him.
Yeah, it was entirely
It
just
makes no sense that Boba Fett says to him, "Drop your jetpack." He should say, "Drop your blaster," or
Right.
"Drop
He's
your
pointing it in
weapon."
his face. Yeah.
Yeah,
well, the jetpack has a missile on it also, so that's probably why.
I mean, I get that, but so does his gun.
Yeah.
But I guess that's surely your reason. I do want to say though, we have to mention because I feel like we've kind of wrapped up the fight scene in a way. We didn't mention Fennec though, and she
Yeah.
kicked ass too.
Yeah, that was a surprise to us also that we get Fennec back here. Where we had gotten the hint that maybe she wasn't fully done here, but we get her return here. She's mowing down troopers. They found she's basically working with Boba Fett now because she basically like says, I'm with him because he saved my life. Like Fennec back was cool.
Yeah, she pretty much comes back as Inspector Gadget. She's all robot now. The torso is all like mechanics and stuff. Um, yeah, I think the character has a huge role in this and is also really awesome.
Yeah, I love watching the fight scene, Nick, especially like when like she's just shooting. One point just throws her helmet at a stormtrooper and just like shoots some more down. Like she'll basically do anything to like get an edge, and like her kicking the boulder down at the machine gun loosened to like mow down that stormtrooper who was manning the gun was great.
Yeah, she was great. I don't know what that stormtrooper is doing. It's like he's played too many video games, and if you shoot the rock enough, it's going to explode and not kill you. Just get out of the way, dude. But her move where she jumps off the cliff and turns around and does like a 180 shot and then lands, that's like incredible move. Super effective. She was probably the most badass fighter out of everybody. Um, I love her. She's amazing.
That definitely is a Robert Rodriguez script note. That flip move.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah. Pete, would you have liked the Book of Boba Fett finale better if the Cyberpunk Power Ranger did a spin move like that to shoot the gun?
Would I like it better? No, I want them gone completely off Star Wars lore.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
All right. So we mentioned the Fennec stuff here. Nick, I think we also got to say, I think like we have the point. I think this episode does a good job, Nick Fraietta, of like getting you into this moment where they're winning, they're winning, they're winning. Like Bo takes the two ships down. You're like, great, this is gonna work out. They're gonna get out of here. And then all of a sudden, boom, Razor Crest is like shot out of the sky by Gideon's ship, and then the Dark Troopers come down and grab Grogu. Like this is a great like all of a sudden you think you're in the clear, then just everything goes to shit in 30 seconds.
Oh yeah, if this wasn't episode 6 out of 8, and if it wasn't called the tragedy, I'm thinking we won.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The fact that you have named it the tragedy and there's still two more to go leaves some doubt where you're like, I think something bad's gonna happen anyway. But they dominated the fight. It wasn't close. And then all of a sudden, Razor Crest gone, Grogu's gone. They're sitting there like, oh my God, what now?
Yeah. Yeah, that's true here. And we get the Dark Troopers actually in this episode. We got them teased 2 episodes ago. Now we see them in action a little bit where they fly down, grab Grogu, fly back. Pete, remember, like, what was your first reaction when you saw them the first time actually in action?
Like the first time, like
Like
when
in
it came
2020.
out.
Yeah.
I think it was cool. I think the same thing occurred to me this time that the last time, how they land. You know, they don't have anything on their hands or anything to land, so they have to like go feet first, so it looks like they're luging in the air down to Grogu. I always found that a little bit awkward, but I mean, they're still cool.
Good time we talk about the losing with the Olympics happening now.
That's why I did it. So I'm a big luge guy.
Well, I have a
I can't
question.
do it, but
Maybe I'm crazy here. I'm wrong. I know I am, but these are called the Dark Troopers, correct?
Yes, the Dark Troopers.
Who are the ones from Rogue One?
I think they're the Death Troopers.
I think you're right. They should have just been the same thing, no?
Well,
well, no, isn't
I think the
aren't they
Death
humans?
I think the Death Troopers are human. I think the Dark Troopers are actually robots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, makes sense. All right.
Yeah, there's a lot of fun with that here, and we get I think, and here's what I talk about before we start going to the wrap up pieces of the episode.
Um, yeah, I want to talk about. Wait, what did you just? You mean the end?
Yeah, the two scenes at the end that come
Oh
after.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Let's get to it. So yeah, perfect.
All right, so I think scene one here, we basically get the tease for next week's episode where Mando, like Boba flies him back to Navarro. He goes to meet Cara Dune, who says, "I'm a marshal now." It's like, okay, find Mayfeld in the database. We need to break him out of prison to get us out of here. So, we're like, what do you think about that like setup here, where we're getting Bill Burr back next week?
I think Bill Burr's the exception to the rule that I completely agree with. That Nick G pointed out earlier. When you have celebrities in there, it takes away. Bill Burr, for whatever reason, maybe it's just the way he acts, or maybe it's his level of fame. I don't know, but I have no issue at all with him being there, and I actually love his character.
I mean, I don't think Bill Burr is up there. I mean, Carl Weathers more famous than him. I don't think we say, "Oh, it's Carl Weathers." I we see grief in this show.
I think you're right. I mean, Bill Burr's, I don't know, one of the biggest comedians, but it's a little bit of a different level of fame than an actor. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Or
Pete,
to be fair, he's in a lot of things acting.
yeah, he is. Pete, like, what do you think about like the setup here for next week with Mayfeld coming back?
I mean, I like that we're going to keep pushing the story along, right? I mean, that's something that was a big gripe for me for the whole season. So I know it's coming, but at least these last couple episodes we're actually having some straight story. Even though there's a side mission, it's to progress the storyline. It's not some help me to get this piece of information that you're never going to use again.
Nick G, you're a big Bill Burr guy.
I am a big Bill guy, big Bill Burr guy, and I think that he works. I agree, Nick, that part of it is also like the casting. He plays the character who fits exactly what his personality is. And I referenced the Jack Black thing before. It's like he just came out of nowhere and it was just Jack Black because it's Jack Black. And I know that this has been criticized a million times. I mean, this is not a unique take, but celebrity can take away, but as long as that they're cast in a role that actually makes sense for them and they're not just cast because of who they are in real life, um, you have a little bit more of a leeway in that regard then.
Yeah, I mean, Giancarlo Esposito is a good example of that. He's as big, basically as big as an actor as you can get, but he fits great.
Yeah, you don't
Yeah,
think Gus,
agreed.
you don't think Gus Fring when you watch him in this show.
No, and I gotta say, I know we're about to get to these last two scenes. Am I the only one who keeps saying, "Oh my God, they're showing Elia Kane again"? I didn't know she existed until season three, but going back and watching season two, she's everywhere.
Yeah, she's like Mando's like she's like Moff Gideon's like number two basically.
Yeah, and I didn't know who she was until season three.
Yeah, yeah. Now like, I don't think we got her name in this season. I think we got it in season three.
I can't believe how much she showed up, honestly.
Yeah, she's in this episode again here, and Pete, we get that last scene where we see Gideon like on the ship, and he hears about Grogu causing trouble. We see Grogu basically force choking stormtroopers, which is something that like you wouldn't really expect from like who's been trained the Jedi way, even if he hasn't done it in 50 years. And then you see Gideon basically like taunting him with the dark saber at the end until he passes out, and like they basically stun him to sleep. So like, what do you think about that last scene? You see like little like angry Grogu come out.
Um, the dark saber thing was definitely Jingle Keys. There's no reason why he had to light that up and be like, "Have you ever seen one of these before?" The baby don't talk. right? Like what do we? That's literally just the hey, look, Darksaber, remember this?
That's just more Moff Gideon being a dick. Also,
That was also like Darth Maul at the end of Solo had to light the lightsaber, just when he was talking, just to like really give a dramatic effect. So yeah, I think it was cool. Again, sets up what's next, sets up pretty much why we kind of knew why, but it kind of confirms why Grogu's being sought after. So I do think that this is I think it's super important. I think it ends the episode nicely.
yeah, Nick. Yeah, I do think interesting to point out here, like that Grogu is like tapping into like dark side abilities here, which is something that like we coming at the episode where Ahsoka's like, I don't want to train him. He's like too attached to you. I think like we're seeing some of that a little like pop out here.
Possibly. I didn't think of that. And a quick note before we finish up here. Trivia question. How many episodes total split between the two seasons? So if it's the answer is nine, it's not nine, I'm telling you. If it was nine, the split between season two and season three, do you think Elia Kane was in? So how many total episodes and then how many in season two and how many in season three?
I would say probably three in this season and like five next season.
I would have thought exactly the same. The answer, it's backwards. She's in 7 episodes total, 4 this season and 3 next season. She's in more episodes this season than last season. That blows my mind.
That's interesting.
Obviously, she has way more screen time in season 3, but she's in more episodes in season 2, and that blows my mind.
She gets credited, I think, in season three. I don't think she gets credited here.
She's first identified as Elia Kane in the season 3
Of the Dr. Pershing episode.
the premiere.
Yeah.
The premiere. She's her first episode identified, and then I'm not sure. I don't even know which one the one is with Dr. Pershing, but yes.
Yeah. Yeah,
Long story short is she's in more episodes in season 2 than she is in season 3, and that blows my mind.
yeah, that I remember that Dr. Pershing episode she's in was really weird because I remember like that Nick G felt like remember that was sort of like the Andor episode of Mandalorian in terms of like what they were trying to do in that episode.
Yeah, it was great. That was I'm usually not the biggest fans of like those kind of very insulated episodes, but I thought that that was really well done. They clearly were taking a note out of Andor's book. But speaking of all this Elia Kane stuff, do you guys remember when people initially thought that she was like Sabine Wren undercover, and that was like the whole thing
Yes.
online? Yeah, I kind of hoped that it was true, but obviously not.
A lot of jingle keys if that would have came true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually remember when we reviewed. I don't remember what I gave that episode, but I remember saying specifically like, I like this episode. I just feel like it was out of place. But looking back, I actually think when we go back to season 3, I know we're going to do it a little bit differently than episodically, but I'm going to really like it. I'm going to enjoy watching the episode again. I really am.
I don't think we're doing it episodic. I think like the
No, like I said, we're not going to do it episodically, but I'm going to watch them all.
yeah, I'll double check real quick how we did on the score here, but like back to the point on on Grogu showing dark side stuff. Like, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I never thought about it until you said it. Obviously, he looked pissed.
Yeah,
But now that I think about it, you are right that Ahsoka did say that he has a level of attachment. Perhaps he's tapping into some dark side abilities there, and it's interesting. I mean, at the end of the day, it's more or less irrelevant because he joins Luke and then leaves, and it doesn't really matter what was going on years ago with him. But it is interesting to see.
yeah. Anything else you guys want to add on this episode before we start wrapping things up?
Yes, I have one thing.
Sure.
When Grogu is, I guess we'll just say meditating, reaching out to the Jedi. Put myself in my own shoes of December 4th, 2020. How in the world did we not all immediately know that he was reaching out to Luke?
I think
Because I remember watching all like the Screen Crush and all those guys on YouTube and the Star Wars people and reading articles, and they're all like, he's reaching out. Who could it be? No one says like, it's Luke Skywalker. Look at the timeline. How did we not know? It's so obvious.
I think the thing is with that one,
Because before you say it, it's because we're like, there's no way they're going to do it.
I think that there was like no way that we thought that they would either recast Mark Hamill or de-age
Exactly.
Mark Hamill. I think that's the only reason why. I think like I remember correctly, the leading theory at the time was Ezra was the leading theory at the time.
Yeah, you're right.
And we just had Thrawn name drop the week before, so it may have said, okay, like maybe this teasing Ezra there.
That's a good point.
Yeah, and I did pull up the grades of the episode, Nick, the convert. Do you want to take a quick second here to hear who we gave the points to that week and stuff?
Well, I'm gonna guess that I gave it a 6 out of 10.
Yeah, I'll give you everything we had this week. So that week, I think the MVPs, you and me both gave one to Elliot Kane.
Cool.
Mike Brescia was with us. He gave one to Moff Gideon.
Okay, I don't know what he did, but we'll find out.
And Pete gave one to Mando, even though Mando was in only like 10 minutes of the episode.
Must have been a strong 10 minutes.
Yeah, I think that was the episode where he's basically fighting and flying away as Bo-Katan's palace gets blown up. Our LVPs that week, we had 4 across the board. Brescia gave it to Paz Vizsla for some reason. I gave it to New Republic. Pete ding Dr. Pershing. And Nick, you gave it to the Twi'lek Doctor, who basically lobotomizes Pershing.
I don't remember that. I have to go back.
Yeah, well, you're watching that for probably a few weeks. The grades, 8 from me, 8 from Pete, 9 from you, 8 from Brescia.
9 from me. Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. So I think that's a good place to wrap that stuff up here. So we'll go to the MVP LVP board. This is the best and worst characters of the season as rated by us. We are through 13 episodes, and Pete, I'll spoil for the audience who obviously you were not here last week, but you joined us in the pile here where you gave points to both Ahsoka for the MVP and you gave a point to Lang for the LVP.
I did. I think my sentiment is probably exactly the same as you guys was last week.
All right, so here's the board right now in terms of what we're looking at here. Mando top of the board at +5. Ahsoka gets a +4 after her 1 episode. She's number 2 on the board. Carson Teva, Bo-Katan, Grief Karga at +2. Pelimato +1. I gave her a point for conning Mando in Chapter 10. Our LVPs, Pelimato's Dumb Droids, -1. The Tusken Raider, who was a bad lookout in the Chapter 9, -1. The Mining Collective and the flashback, -1. Frog Lady, Grogu, and the deck officer gets blown out of the ship in Chapter 11, -1. The Mithril, -1 for being bad comic relief. John Favreau, -2 points from Pete. The Navarro Imperial Base, -3. And Lang, also known as Michael Bean's character, -4. That's the current state of the board.
Let's update it.
All right, we will update here. So I'm going to see who we have listed as going first. I believe we have Pete going first today. So Pete, who is the MVP of the week?
Boba Fett. I think that he deserves some points, especially because of his demise in his next show. I thought he was great. I think the way that they wrote the character into the episode is great. I think the hype that they made for the character after the episode air was great. Obviously doesn't work out for him, unfortunately, but if we're talking about just this, MVP for me.
Nick Frey, I'm assuming you're matching him at Boba Fett.
Boba Anthony Fett. I don't know. That sounds like that would be his middle name. So Boba Fett. As cool as he could have possibly been. This is what we all dreamed of Boba Fett being when we were all children.
Yeah. Nick G, where are you going?
It's Boba Fett. Despite the fact that it kind of came out of nowhere, when he had to remind Din that it was part of his deal to make sure that the child was safe, he's kind of a man of his word. He's kind of a one-man army in that entire episode. And he gets his armor back. He's the MVP.
I will agree the correct answer is Boba Fett, but for the sake of variety, I'm giving a point to Moff Gideon because Moff Gideon is a big winner of this episode because he gets Grogu back, he blows up Mando's ship, he gets what he wants, he gets to be a dick to Grogu and get away with it. So he gets an MVP point from me this week.
Something we didn't mention that I mentioned when we went over this episode in December of 2020 was remember I mentioned this exact point. I said the Razor Crest may have blown up. But when they're searching the wreckage, they find that little ball that Grogu's obsessed with, and that was like symbolic of there's a piece of him still out there, and you can still get him.
Yeah, and the spear.
Of course, yeah.
All right, LVP time. You can start us off here, Nick Fraietta.
I'm gonna give it to. So I'm not sure how I want to narrow this down. Like, I'm giving it to. I'm just gonna say the Stormtroopers.
Yeah,
you could put it as the Empire, the Stormtroopers. I don't know, whatever. We could streamline whatever makes the most sense at the end here. But they Their battle tactics are not very good. Just leave
Yeah.
it at that.
Yeah, you can give it disarmament to the one stormtrooper who lets himself get run over by a boulder.
Yeah.
Nick G.
Yeah, I think the stormtroopers, but specifically the squad leader of the stormtroopers, he like runs out there. He's calling his squad idiots. He's leading them into instant death situations. He gets snuck up on by Boba Fett, so he's kind of oblivious. So he, like, the Empire just needs to reevaluate whoever they promote to squad leader because he's terrible. But if we want to do somebody that's a little bit more of a main character, I think LVP is actually Mando because he kind of sits the battle out for most of it because he knocks himself out and then he loses his son and then he loses his ship. So he really loses quite a bit. So I don't know. It's the squad leader, in my opinion, but if we want to make it somebody who's a little bit more
If you
significant than Mando.
if you want the squad leader, you can have the squad leader.
All right, squad leader for sure. He's a terrible squad leader.
All right. I'm gonna give it to for all the reasons you said, I think I'm giving it to Mando because like Mando like literally is the biggest loser of this episode. Like you said, loses his ship, loses Grogu, and has a lot of self-inflicted errors in here, like not waiting long enough to get Grogu off the thing, not putting his jetpack back on to make the truce with Boba Fett. Like there's a lot of self-inflicted errors here that lead to the situation he's in. Pete.
I want to give it to the stormtrooper on the Gatling gun, the mounted gun, because he didn't correct once. He just kept hitting the rocks below Fennec the entire time.
Yeah.
Terrible, terrible shot, terrible performance. So I'll just give it to the clone troopers in general.
Stormtroopers. Yeah,
I
and
said clone. Sorry.
yeah, sorry.
Stormtroopers. Yeah. So I just think that it was just bad.
Yeah. I just think like with those stormtroopers, it's hilarious, like watching them like try and work this problem out here, and like as Nick said, I think Nick G said earlier, like the guy manning the machine gun basically like thinks he's playing asteroids, where he's gonna keep blasting the rocket, it'll just fall apart.
Let me tell you something. I think the most, if we were ever going to bring a villain into Star Wars from that era, I think a good stormtrooper would probably throw everyone for a loop. Like one that actually was good at his job or her job or whatever.
That's what
Like,
Captain Phasma was supposed to be.
yeah, but that obviously didn't work out, right? I mean, like it just one that's like not Rick the door technician, right? Like I mean, like they're all Rick the door technician. We want one that's literally Boba Fett, but in clone stormtrooper gear, right? Or Mando in stormtrooper gear. I feel like that would throw everyone for a loop, and that would be like the most loved character in Star Wars if they ever did it.
I think it could be a great idea for a like a secondary villain in a movie or a show. Like let's say the villain in the new Mando movie is Thrawn. I know it's not, but like Thrawn's second in command was this awesome stormtrooper who was like jacked and actually shot well. Like that'd be really cool.
Is that what Enoch's supposed to be?
I guess that's what like if you think about it, that's kind of what the Dark Troopers are, right?
Yeah.
Or I should have said the Death Troopers. I gotta figure that out. I'm getting confused a lot.
Yeah, I think like Enoch is supposed to be that secondary lead, which then like, but they don't give him a chance to do anything yet.
True.
All right, so
That's true. Yeah, that's a good point. But his helmet's stupid, honestly.
yeah. Well, they might be doing a lot of drugs in that other dimension, just try and pass the time.
Honestly, it makes him less threatening because he looks stupid.
It reminds me of, I don't know if you guys made this correlation, but one of the opponents in Gladiator had the same kind of face helmet.
Yeah.
That's what it reminded me of.
Definitely, that's what they're going for.
Yeah, I think so too.
All right. Let's now grade the episode on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 is worse than 1978 Holiday Special. 10 is up there with the Gorman arc of Andor for the pinnacle of live action Star Wars content. Nick G, you're up first. And Nick Fraietta, before he goes, you want to remind him the system here, how this works.
Yeah, the system is simple. The 5 is the average. It's not like in school where if you got a 5 out of 10, you fail. It's like a 0, I guess a 0 to 10 scale, 5 being the middle. So a 7 is pretty good, and 8 is great.
Do we give 0.5s?
Okay,
You can do 0.5, yeah.
All right, 7.5.
Okay. I'm going to give this one an 8.5. I think it's a very good episode. I think there is some, plot writing things that bother me a little bit. I wish it was a little longer, but I had a lot of fun with this one. So, Pete.
Yeah, I'm at 8.5 as well. I believe I gave last week an 8. Literally the only difference between last week and this week is that point 0.5 is that it's all story driven. It's all going toward actually finishing the season and showing a story about what we all kind of gathered around to watch The Mandalorian. So that's why it just gets that extra point 0.5.
Nick Frey, I'm assuming this is a 10 from you.
I'm gonna give it a 9.5, not a 10, because 10 is reserved for the season 2, episode 9, and or the escaping the Senate with Mon Mothmas and stuff like that. I think this episode in particular, of all live action Star Wars, has the most rewatchability.
I
And
think
that I think that goes a long way. I think it's there's a short episode, there's a lot of action in it. It's very to the point. I think it has a ton of rewatchability, and for that reason, I'm going to give it basically as high as you can. And I would like to once again remind the audience that our panel, who created our bracket for the best episodes in Star Wars history, did not include this episode even in the running to make the bracket, and that is asinine.
It's a tragedy, really.
Yes, good one.
Thank you.
yeah, definitely great job there, Pete.
Not a great job, though. You mean?
No, it's a good job by Pete for making the shout.
Okay.
The pun and the dad joke is probably not something to be proud of. Anyway.
All right, so I think that's it for this week here. Nick G, thanks for stopping by, coming on here. Any social media you want to let the people know how to keep up with you? You want to share your opinions with the world?
No social media for me. This is this is as much internet as I get. So it was a pleasure to be here. Happy to chat with you guys. Pleasure.
A lot of fun here. Pete, want to follow you on social media? How can I do that?
At Consy29 on Twitter, CONSY29, AP Tyler 308 posted this background on Reddit. Make sure you check him out.
Nick Fraietta, one more time. People want to follow us on social media? How can I do that?
At Sky Guys Podcast all over social media, and you can email the pod at skyguyspod@gmail.com, and that's it.
Yep, you can also follow me on social media at mphillips331. It's MPHILIPS331. As you go over on the Just End the Suffering podcast, we are in NFL offseason mode here. I'm still trying. I got a couple episodes coming out in the next few weeks. We're going to do a NBA catch up as we get ready for as the NBA starts in the All-Star break. And we're also doing, I haven't done the Jet offseason preview yet, Pete. So I'm sure you're excited about that.
Jets legend Sam Darnold winning a Super Bowl. I say we bring him home. Bring him home.
Yeah, I don't. If he wanted to, I don't think he would.
No, never.
All right, so that's it for us. We'll be back next week to cover Chapter 15, The Believer. Until then, may the Force be with you.